Kia ora whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora Chewy, sir. How are you, love?
Kia ora, Pat.
Did you see me dancing?
Yeah. I just felt like a wee boogie in it.
Yeah, it's that music, isn't it? It's that music. Speaking of music, I haven't told, I think it was Gold who sent me something today. Haven't actually told Gold we're going to do this, but we're going to play some music that I was sent this morning, and it's kind of fucking hilarious, to be perfectly honest. Yes, boogieing along. How are you, man? What's going on?
Not a lot. Just a pretty standard week for me. It is chilly. I am half inside a sleeping bag at the moment. It's
real?
Got to keep the legs nice and toasty, and I've got to make sure that if there's some sort of emergency, I'll look hilarious getting out of my house.
Slippers.
Yeah, slippers.
I said to someone the other day, in my ideal world, I'll never work a job again where I can't wear my slippers. So working in radio or broadcasting is perfect because your legs are underneath the desk, or being the big boss. They're the only two possibilities, I think. Now, I noticed, was it Pam in the chat a few minutes ago, talking about Christopher Luxon, Mr. Potato Head? I got sent this. Maybe it was sent to me by Pam. It's an advert for Bluebird and Bluebird chips. Oh no, it's not. It's an advert for fiber. I don't know if it's all Bluebird chips. Advert for fiber, and people were wondering how Christopher Luxon managed to do both the TV advert and be the Prime Minister.
I use it to host webinars, preferably without this filter.
So I just, there's a little one to start you off with. I actually thought, and our creative group of people out there, maybe I'll turn that into a PNG with a transparent background and start putting that over Luxon in the thumbnails every single time. So it's quite perfect. I kind of like it. So yeah, lots going on tonight. We are going to talk a bit about Duncan Garner's come to Jesus moment. I'll give you more details. That happened it didn't happen on the Working podcast last night, but I heard about it on the Working podcast last night. Also going to talk about, just remember under Labour how high migration was always a negative thing and thrown back in their face. Well, apparently we are at the highest migration. More Kiwis are leaving New Zealand now than in the history of the country. Now, we've got to be fair. If you've only got 2.5 million population in the 1970s or whatever it was, of course you're going to have fewer people leaving. And I'll be honest, I haven't actually done the per capita, which I know is something we love to do in New Zealand because that's how we compete with the rest of the world. Per capita, we got lots of gold medals at the Olympics. But just the headline that more Kiwis are leaving now than ever. Now, obviously there was a lot of Kiwis that came into New Zealand after and during COVID. But you would think if the population of New Zealand, and the interview I'm going to play tonight talks about we're losing our best and brightest. If the best and brightest were confident in the government to run this economy, why would they go anywhere? Just thought, so is it indicative of people's lack of trust? Is it just purely about they're all the people who came home from Europe and now they're going back again? It's an interesting old conversation. Also, Chewy, going to have a look at retail crime and how it's rife at the moment and why it is. But also on top of that, tying into that, the conversation around police officers. The government's made New Zealand this promise that there'll be 500 new police officers. Now, we still are unclear whether that means additional or new, because if 400 retire and they put 500 new on, then they've done their promise. But New South Wales is actively trying to take every single police officer they ever could. And apparently the police union is like, no, yeah, this is a pretty good offer. This is going to work. Lost 20 police officers last week. Jesus. We lost 20. So, if you did that for several weeks in a row, you're going to eat into Mr. Luxon's 500 pledge, aren't you? You're losing 20 in a week. It doesn't take many of those weeks to end up being a bad week or a bad time for us. It's a hard one, isn't it, Chewy? Because I mean, I know about your background and your kind of protest heart. And a lot of people that work in this world are like, fuck the police and never trust the police and all that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting one because a lot of people might say, good, fewer cops, better sort of thing. I find that happens with a lot of people until they have a serious crime committed against them. And then they're like, oh, come on, help me, please, police. But how do you feel about it? Because like I said, I know you're sort of, I wouldn't say, I should guess that you're kind of a bit of a pushback against the police, never trust sort of thing. You are that, but you'd be closer to that.
Yeah. Look, I think overall the New Zealand police aren't rotten to the core like many other police forces are around the world. And I think certainly, and I'll acknowledge my privilege here, I'm a white dude in the South Island. My interactions with the police have mainly been negative. Mainly been on the more positive side. If they have been negative, to be honest, it was my own damn fault. That sort of thing. I made things a little bit worse for myself. But if we're going through, it's like the nurses, man. If we're going through the effort of training these guys, and we can't retain them, something is wrong. We need police. I don't know if I agree with this constant political football of we need more cops, we need more cops, we need more cops. That's got to be a problem. We've got to retain the ones that we do. We have to make sure that they're trained. We've got to make sure that they interact with our community in a good way, in a net positive way. And when I hear stories of so many cops leaving, I made the joke as they might as well have a shuttle bus from the police college to the airport the other day. Is like, that's not good value for the taxpayer. It's not good value for this country because those new cops coming through probably have a more up-to-date mindset. So what cops are remaining? Do we get the ones that aren't the pick of the litter? The ones that other police forces that don't want? That doesn't sound good. And certainly if I was the minister for the police, would I be taking the masses of police leaving the country as an indictment against my leadership?
Yeah.
I probably would be, because you're asking a lot of the cops while rejecting their pay negotiations. Like the news that came, like I said last week, it's amazing how quick this government statements fall apart, right? So the big, we're doing a fucking task force, we're doing an anti-gang task force, and it comes out today, no extra money, no extra stuff, no extra funding. So what the fuck is it? It's a bumper sticker. It's
a new badge for a police officer to put on their lapels.
Yeah, and as we were talking about, out of the conversation we had last night with Harry Tam, the experience both here and overseas is when you put together a task force, often you get some pretty fucked behavior from the police.
Yeah. Where does it lead?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to worry about. Look, I'm not someone that says we don't need police.
Yeah.
I'm someone that acknowledges the steps that the police have done to rehab how things have done.
Yep.
To understand that there's cultural things within their structure and in the community that they need to be better at. And I think they have improved. But I don't trust the whole thing. Like it's so easy to upset the balance. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and I think it ties into the greater discussion we're obviously going to have about Kiwis leaving. I don't think there's one answer there. I think there's a lot of people that came home for COVID, and now the world's opening up again. I think that a lot of these people will be people that have had the overseas experience, come back and seen how expensive it is here, how shit our housing stock is, how poor our wages are, and gone, well, it was nice to come home for a couple of years. Time to go.
Yeah.
And then for the younger crowd going, there are better opportunities for me overseas, and I've been stuck in my country for 4 years. So I'm going to explore.
The one thing that the government doesn't seem to be doing about people leaving is they constantly say about Australia, like actually, maybe to his credit, because mostly politicians wouldn't do this in the past. Luxon's just gone, well, they get paid better in Australia. But they haven't then taken the next leap to why do these public servants get paid better in Australia? Yes, they've got a bigger economy. Yes, they've got more money, but they've also got a very different tax system where they take more tax on things like selling houses and that sort of thing. So it's like it's this thing that politicians do. They may speak the truth, but then they'll never go one step deeper publicly as to why can they afford to pay them more? Why can they do that? And it's because there's more tax take. And why is there more tax? Because that's the only place that public servants get paid by, right? More tax take per capita. And he never goes to that point to try and figure it out. But look, seeing we're here, you'll have to stick around if you want to hear the music track. We'll do this, but we're right in the middle of this. So let's go and have a listen to sociologist, is it Paul Spoonley? I think it's Paul Spoonley. Let me get it right. Yep, Paul Spoonley, just talking about why people are leaving. I'm not showing the graphics at the beginning, but just to let you know, the graphics at the beginning have said 78,200 Kiwis leaving per year and 25,000 coming home. So it's for every one Kiwi that comes home, 3 are currently leaving. And the conversation this morning was, why are people leaving? I just think, surely there's only one answer, and it's money. Even if you say opportunities to what? To earn money. That's actually, because Luxon's like, we're the greatest little country in the world. It's like, okay. Have you been to Fiji? Okay. Have you sat on a reef in the tropical islands? But anyway, but why would anyone leave New Zealand if you could earn twice as much as you could in Australia doing your job? You wouldn't. You just wouldn't. So it's just money. The answer is why people are leaving, and it's money. Other than the OE guys who go for an adventure, but they tend to come back anyway. But people who are leaving for good, it's money. That's it, in my opinion.
What are some of the reasons that we're seeing this, people leaving?
Well, the major reason is Australia. So we have a country which is very large compared to us. It has much better salaries and wages compared to us. The Australians are over here actively recruiting at the moment.
Yep.
We've heard about the police. We've heard about and when you look at the starting salary in Australia, which is like 148,000 compared with about 70,000 here, and they're providing you with a 25,000 relocation package, why wouldn't you go? So the push factors of what's happening in the New Zealand economy and the downturn in jobs, the job people losing jobs, and then the availability of good jobs, a very deep labour market, a lot of options in Australia, and the salaries. So why wouldn't you go? And about half of those people who
that all means money, job opportunities, and because job opportunity means money. So even as they said 3 things there, they all come back to the money's better. And look, I know what I've just said is an absolute may not be true, because there could be people going to Queensland because they want better weather or warmer weather or whatever. But let's just be real. The huge majority of people are only leaving their homeland for a better financial gain. There are some byproducts like weather and stuff, but it's primarily like no one would go, I'm going to go live in Brisbane and earn half as much, would they? No, they wouldn't do that. But they'd say, I'm going to go to Brisbane because the weather's amazing and I'm going to earn 50% more and the cost of living's less. Money. Without the money, they're not going to go. I've got about 60 seconds to it, but I've just paused it. So if you want to jump in now, more than welcome.
No, heard it.
Let's keep going.
Leaving are going to Australia. So that's our big destination. There's one thing that puzzles me, you see, we're 6 months into the new government.
Yes.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very unusual.
That people are still leaving.
Going. Yeah. Still going. So, my understanding is with the police that some of them are hanging around to see what the job offer will be before they go. So if the job offer from the government is not going to be attractive for the police,
as the police said, is insulting, then that might be a target to get rid of some more of those police and take numbers out of that 500 perhaps.
And I think we'll see quite a few more disappear over the Tasman. But I would have thought people might have stayed around and seen, right, where's this government going, what it's going to do, is it going to help with the cost of living, all of those sorts of issues. But no, this is extraordinary. The numbers just keep piling up.
Yeah, and it is interesting given the fact that this government has said they're going to fix the economy, etc., etc. So
there you go. So if they're still leaving, even though this government has said they're going to fix the economy, etc., etc., as Jenny May just said, and what is it for you? I mean, like, I guess we can't know every indication, but if you were assured that your income, your job opportunity were going to be better in New Zealand, I'm assuming most people wouldn't go anywhere. So does it speak to there being no trust in this government to be able to do what they want to do, like to be able to increase the economy as much as they say they're going to do? Because they're still leaving.
Yeah. Look, I don't think that, I don't think there's one thing that comes into it when people decide to move. I think
money.
You can boil it. I think if you're going to put it down to one thing, it's going to be money. But if you break that down, our food is expensive, our housing is expensive and poor. There's underinvestment in business, so they can't pay attractive wages to keep people. Our government undertaxes and certainly doesn't target tax correctly in a way to increase our tax take. We try to cherry pick things from other countries without understanding the context which those things exist. The Australian labour market is much more unionised than ours. They have more power that way. They have a huge mining industry. So even if they are taxing that relatively lightly, they are still taxing it.
Yep.
They do stamp duty on house sales and that sort of thing. There's a lot of things that the Australians do that we could take ideas from. I still come back to the fact that we identified where we're missing out on tax. We had a couple of parties with some really great ideas on tax, and then people voted for the guys that were talking tax but talking about it coming back. And we've traded that. We've traded some almost generational shift in what could be funding things here in New Zealand. And you need to break our investment in housing to supercharge this economy, but no one will do it because everyone is compromised by it.
Yeah. Or the flip side.
You can't be a government that comes in and goes, we're going to fix all of that. You can't. It'd be fucking Mad Max. But everybody needs to recognize those problems and try and solve them rather than going, oh, fuck, we don't know why the young people are leaving. Anyway, pay round denied.
And they were talking about housing in the working group podcast last night, and I saw you all in there again. I saw it. I saw all the names popping up in there. I'm watching you guys. And they were talking about that. It was a bit of a strange comment actually, because I think it was Duncan Garner who went, and for the first time, first home buyers are the only ones buying houses. And then he went on to say 30% of the homes are being sold currently to first home buyers. And I was like, hang on, that means 70% of the houses aren't. But needless to say, they then made a joke about, but the difference is these first house buyers are 48 years old. So, you can, and if the government's going to change all of that, I mean, it's funny, Chewy, you were saying it can be a myriad of things, but you mentioned food cost, which is money, housing cost, which is money, and pay, which is money. So, it's, and I just think that it's a bit similar to the Three Waters conversation. All the mayors were saying, we want our own control. We don't want to have to do this, but none of them were saying, and it's going to cost you more. I mean, what would happen I guess it's the Greens, aren't they? If they're going to go, you know what, we need to keep our police officers. We need to keep our nurses. We need to keep our public servants and professionals. So we're going to tax you guys more so we can pay them what they can get in other places that tax their citizens more. Just be blunt about it. I mean, maybe say it a bit nicer than that, but be blunt about it. There are some taxes coming, and the reason the taxes are coming is you guys all think that we don't have any nurses left. So we want to keep those. The reason that Australia can buy them is because they have more tax take than us.
See, the thing that New Zealand has got going for it is this is a nice place to live.
Yeah.
People like coming here. We have the landscape. We have a lot of things that people want. But if it's too expensive to fucking live here, there's a reason that we have tech billionaires building bolt holes here. There is a reason that Auckland is absolutely crawling with millionaires. It's a great place for those guys to live. They get to keep all their money. They can go skiing. They can fucking drive their yacht around without orcas trying to sink them. It's great here. And you know, it was one of the things that we saw when we had people coming back from overseas around COVID, is it's like, well, this is a scary time, but it's good to be home. You know, we can't retain those people. It's like one of the things that is always told in retail, right, is you don't want to lock the door on a customer, but you also don't want to let them leave unless you're really confident that you had the best offer.
Yeah,
you kind of want to lock them in. And I think that thing where you let people go overseas and that sort of thing, if they find someone, if they buy a piece of land, if they settle down and start a family, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to come back.
Yep. If they have a kid in another part of the world and then that relationship breaks up, they either leave their kid because the kid's staying in the place they were born, or we've lost them. And the people who are moving offshore at the moment are those sorts of younger adults, you know, 20 to 35, who will be popping out sprogs in the next 5 to 10 years.
I mean, I've never really been tempted by Australia. You know, I know it's not as simple as just there's better wages and that there's a lot of problems over in Australia, and I just don't like the vibe. But you know, there are success stories. You know, people can go over and work in the mines and make a fucking year's worth of money in 3 months and come home. You know, I was talking to someone the other day that works in the mines and lives here.
Yeah.
You know, he just goes to work for 6 months and then comes back for 6 months. You know, it's the comparison is weird, but at the end of the day, if we're not retaining our people and then we're having to import people from elsewhere to replace them, that's not sustainable. Yeah.
No.
And I don't want to turn it into an anti-migrant thing or anything like that, but it's one of those things, like when we talk about the nurses, that the training nurses to go overseas so we can replace nurses replace those nurses with nurses from somewhere else. That's not a sustainable thing. That's not a slight against those nurses.
Yeah.
It's just a weird fucking system. And it's the same with the police. Why are we training police that are not going to stay here more than 5 years? Some of them not even that they're going to take that 25 grand relocation. Jesus, that's a good offer, and double their wages and go over to Australia.
I mean, you said it better than me when you actually said, talking about the police in the show, actually, without even recognizing it, we set up the show to be talking about migration, immigration, and job opportunities. That's kind of the vibe going through the whole show. Let me get to, well, what we'll do is we'll go to the second part of the same conversation, not that it necessarily relates, but it starts with retail crime in New Zealand. We'll get to that in a sec. I think there's a few super chats in there. We'll just get these down first of all, or else you know what'll happen. We'll get to the end of the show and we'll go, what were we talking about at that moment? Lurchify says, thank you for your super chat. From C-Lux, I've got a new joke for the people of New Zealand. It's called Trickle Down, and 99% of you won't get it.
Nah.
But hang on, I've got one of those. Wait, is it this one? Oh, I've got it turned down.
Oh, don't fuck up your buttons.
I was going to
fuck up your special buttons.
Where's the badumch?
He's bubbled it.
I don't know where the badumch is. Hang on.
Oh,
I got to learn the numbers. Oh no, that's on the wrong one. I did have the right one. That was smooth.
It was so smooth.
No one noticed that. That was smooth.
You're going to edit that out, aren't you?
Yeah, because it was live. Another one here from Luchfly, actually. C. Luxon, I've got a new joke for the people. Oh, it's the same. You think the same one twice. Oh, okay, we'll just do it again. I've got a new joke for the people of New Zealand. It's called Trickle Down.
What's the joke?
99% of you won't get it. There you go. See,
hey, there we go. We're getting so good at that.
Nick says, thank you for the super chat. The squeaky floorboard by back door induces super chats. Just saying. Am I lost? What are we saying?
I think that might be an in joke that just Cookie's in on.
Oh, okay. That
I
sounds
think he
really
might have a squeaky floorboard in his house.
Oh, that's making him. Oh, okay. Our regular update on the Cross Valley link from Mr. Alex. Thank you for the super chat. According to New Zealand Herald, apparently the NZTA Waka Kotahi can decide on which infrastructure projects can proceed. This could affect the Cross Valley link, Melling and Kelson interchange projects in the Hutt Valley. There you go. That's the daily update on the Cross Valley link from Mr. Alex.
I've been down here in Dunedin for about 8 years now. They were talking about Melling like 5 years before that. So it'll happen at some stage, I'm sure.
And finally, for this part of the super chats, Peter says the original sin was Muldoon getting rid of super. Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the first decade of this century, because I'm old. Conversations, comparisons being made to it was when the Kiwi Saver started up, your retirement one. There was comparisons made that one of the reasons Australia is so rich is they've got all that money set aside for super. They pay into it every single week, and that's money that actually helps the country get a return as well. So it's one of the reasons. So yep, Muldoon's got a lot to answer for that.
Talking about people leaving as we are, there's a couple of thoughts that I've just had, right?
Sure.
I wonder if this is a thing of like, again, you don't look at the whole graph, right? You just look at the graph between the last couple of years, and you see this huge spike of people leaving where, of course, they couldn't over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I wonder, are we back up to a level of people leaving that we were pre-COVID? The other thing is, this is not something specific to National. This is something that National have bashed Labour around before on people leaving. People always leave New Zealand. We're a nation of leavers.
Although it's the worst ever.
We like to travel. Yeah.
It is the worst ever. Like the last time, the next worst year was about a 44,000 difference, and that was the year after the global financial crisis. And now it's over 50,000. So they are big nut. But you're right. Because we're at the bottom of the world, if we want to see or do anything, we have to leave the country. But these numbers are extraordinarily high as compared to normal. But then it could be to do with COVID.
Some of us have to get wives from England.
I just go to my grandparents in Ireland.
You go to your grandparents for wives? That doesn't sound sustainable or wise.
Well, wise, not sustainable though. Yep. All right. Let's keep tracking, because this is a kind of in-between part of the story, because this is the story about retail crime, and it does tie in, because it ties in my mind at least, to the idea of, we need to police this. We need to figure out how we're going to deal with crime. And this came out today. We've done this once before, actually. And I remember the conversation, because everyone was just thinking, cost of living, yada, yada, yada. And we did this maybe 6 months ago, and the representatives from the supermarkets were saying, we don't think this is cost of living, because the kinds of things that are being stolen aren't your basics. They're not your cost of living stuff. And they were saying back then that people are stealing things that look like it was maybe a black market, like they'd be stealing expensive bottles of wine because you could on-sell them or whatever. And it wasn't necessarily back then being said about being the cost of living. So I'm interested to hear again what they're saying it's all about this time around. But this is the story we're going to have a look at to do with retail crime going through the roof, especially in supermarkets. And there's also this idea about facial recognition system, Chewy, being used in Pack and Save, I think it is, their trial that they're doing with that as well.
Foodstuffs says retail crime at its North Island stores has doubled in 2 years, but a trial of facial recognition technology is helping to deter repeat offenders.
The supermarket chain insists the cost of living isn't the main driver behind the surge in thefts, but as Zane Small reports, a criminologist disagrees.
What you're about to watch is no longer a rare occurrence. A woman with a concealed item is approached by a New World staff member. She becomes aggressive and the worker is lunged at. Here, a security guard is kicked in the face by a man who refused to leave a Pack and Save store.
There's no doubt that our store team members have a lot to deal with, and they've got more to deal with now than ever with this increase in retail crime.
Foodstuffs records show it's getting worse. There were more than 5,000 incidents of retail crime at the company's North Island stores in the first quarter of this year.
Now, not to be too much of a wanker, but if this was in the first quarter of last year, you just know that National would have used it to hammer Labour, right? Because this is all entirely within National's term. Now, I don't think we need to do that, but I'm just wanting to bring to your attention, if this was 12 months ago, this would have been a billboard by National against the incumbent government. Is it now fair then to do the reverse and say, what's this all happening under National for?
That's up from nearly 2,400 in the first quarter of 2022. To combat the rise in crime, 3 months ago, Foodstuffs began a 6-month trial of facial recognition technology at
How do we feel about that, Chewy? How do we feel about facial recognition?
I have a deep unease.
Yeah.
About facial recognition. There have been studies done because a lot of the training of AI models around facial recognition, lots of false positives on darker complexions seems to be an issue that hasn't been solved.
Right.
So yeah, I am not keen. I'm not keen on this at all.
The photos that we're seeing on the screen right now, they look like they're more the cameras at face level. But I remember when they started doing this in the UK with cameras up on poles, I used to think then, you know, a camera system that can be basically beaten by having a cap pulled down nice and low is a pretty stupid system anyway. But yeah, they look like they're more, you must walk past them in front of you sort of thing to get the whole face. So, okay. I mean, I'm sort of, it's, and I'm sorry I said this 10 times last night, but it is the devil in the detail, isn't it? It depends how it's used, what it's used for, you know, what they do with the data, what they're allowed to do with the data, what they're allowed to pass on, for example, to police and stuff. Like Apple, for example, often goes, gets on the bad side of the FBI when they refuse to open, you know, they refuse to open phones of people who have been accused of crimes and stuff because they don't play that. What's this data going to be used for? You know, could it be used nefariously? I don't know. So I don't want to sound like a simpleton and always have this answer, but the details are what matters.
I think there's a couple of things here, right? Like we're talking about the facial recognition. That's one thing. The supermarkets have, you know, they really made that push for self-service checkouts and that sort of thing as a cost-saving measure. Now they're crawling with cameras, and you got people making sure that the white onion that you just scanned and weighed isn't a T-bone steak. You know, it slows the whole thing down. It pisses me off. Supermarkets, I don't want to say that this is a justification for theft, right? But when there's so many stories about the super profits that these guys are extracting from this country, that moral thing of like, oh, I don't want to make a small business go under by stealing from them,
my local
goes away.
Yeah.
Goes away, doesn't it?
Well,
and then the supermarket's answer is to have a security guard. Now, as you see on all of that footage, the older person, you know, they stand by the door, and it seems that their whole job is to go, can I see your receipt, and then take a punch to the face. Like, it's not safe for them. It's not stopping the crime. It's ridiculous. I don't have an answer, but everything that the supermarkets are doing is wrong.
The self-checkout systems, the biggest loss they have going through those are when people ring up their cashew peanuts as salted peanuts, or they ring up their rose apples as Cox's apples, which are on special that week. That's the way that they lose that much money. And yeah, but look, it's really interesting to watch it, because since we lost plastic bags and that kind of thing, we go into paper bags and that, I felt like supermarkets are starting to restack your bags for you that you bring along. It always intrigues me about the financial advantage versus the customer service sort of thing. But yeah, those self-checkouts, it's like, we're doing this because we want to save money. Oh shit, we're losing a bunch of money. So now we're going to put more and more layers of security above these people who are weighing their own apples and doing the job for us, as you're saying.
I tell you what, if I work for a supermarket, there's no way that I'm approaching someone that might punch me in the face because they're taking something. There's no way that there's a single person in that supermarket that gets paid enough to deal with that. I understand the mindset that sort of shot of emotion of like, how dare you steal from the place that I work on? But fucking foodstuffs don't give a shit about you.
But what about the other extreme? I am perplexed as to why people stand around and they watch 3 or 4 19-year-olds smashing up a Michael Hill jeweler, and everyone just stands back and watches. I'm perplexed
it's not worth
by
getting
that.
stabbed.
Well, but is that the thing that's going to happen?
And I mean, we saw that footage there, man. Any one of those punches could be a screwdriver or something like that. It's not like, I mean, it's just not worth it.
Well, here's another thing as well. I'm one of those people, one of those assholes that when I'm walking out of JB Hi-Fi and they go, "Can I look in your bag, sir?" I go, "Nope," and I keep walking.
Yep.
Because they're not entitled to do it, and it's the same, Joey. Just so you know. And look, I'll be careful and say this: this is not legal advice, but it's the same at supermarkets. It's the same at Mitre 10. All those places, there's no right for them to do it. And this is always, it's a bit like the American conversation. They've given these people these inalienable rights, and then they're trying to squash them for the sake of profit or security. You can't have it both ways. The local Pack and Save here in Dunedin, which is supposedly the cheapest supermarket in New Zealand, because Pack and Save always comes out as the cheapest, and South Dunedin Pack and Save is typically the cheapest of all the Pack and Saves. They have a sign up on the wall saying, "To enter the store, you are giving us the right to search your bags," yada 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 yada. I don't believe that to be the case, and I think their sign up there is just so they can point to it and go, "See, there's a sign," but they're not supposed to be allowed to look in your bags. And I've had it once there as well. They've said, "Can we look at your bags?" And I've gone like, "Nope," and then they've gone, "You have to. You've given us the right to." Because, and it was a 17-year-old kid, and I didn't want to give him shit, so I was like, "Sure." But this is the flip side of it, is also the idea of, like we're talking about the facial recognition. What do we give up? What rights do we give up? What freedoms do we give up to give these guys more security and give these guys less financial loss as well? Where is that line? Because I'm not prepared to give it all up, but I also don't want to see necessarily a business get ripped off.
Yeah, it's. I'm not saying, like, I don't like thieves. I don't like shoplifters. I've had to deal with them for years. Look, I'm the same. If I'm asked to show my bag, 9 times out of 10 I won't, because I haven't taken anything. I've worked very closely with security guards at a former employer of mine, and that sort of thing, and to see what he has to deal with and that sort of thing. But yeah, there is no way that I would work at a supermarket or be a security guard at a supermarket and put myself in the way of harm for that supermarket duopoly.
Yeah. Well, so I think guard, someone just wants to make sure, stay positive, wants to make sure that you're not saying, so 1 time out of 10 you took something.
The other aspect,
the job of this is the thing though, right? And I'm conflicted on this, because you and me saying no with our bags is making the job more difficult for the security guard, which might lead to something else that might get them all hit up for no reason. So I'm aware of that as well. But the job of the security guard is to observe and report. That's actually what they're there to do. They don't have arrest powers. They're not supposed to detain. They're supposed to observe and report and call into the police if they need any other thing. So those guys actually getting punched in the face, I'm not saying it's their own fault at all, make that clear, but they should probably be just letting them walk out and, following them and trying to get a license plate or something. I don't know.
And again, I understand that reaction. I'm indignant when I have seen something like that, or I see the footage. I can understand why someone would do that. I'm just saying, don't put yourself in harm for the fraction of a percentage point of profit for an international corporation. Fuck that. Take your wages, observe and report, as you've said. Supermarkets want me to use a self-service checkout. They can trust me to use it and not steal.
Yeah. I'm saving you money. I'm doing a job for you. You don't have to have a staff member to do this.
Yeah, exactly. If that's costing you too much money, rip them out. The answer is not to stick a camera in my face to make sure that I do it properly.
Yeah. All right.
We're either trustworthy enough for that system to work, or we're not.
Yeah. Let's keep trucking with this,
25 New World and Pack and Save stores across the North Island.
If the individual is not a person of interest, their image will be deleted.
It works by matching the faces of people who enter against the store's record of offence.
It's funny, actually, not to cut into this. We're going to be here till midnight if I do this again, but you've just said, and I agree with you, if they're going to have those systems, they need to trust us, while at the same time they're saying, well, we're going to be extra secure on you and you can trust us. It's like so they're saying that we have to trust them whilst they're not trusting us. So that's an interesting conversation to debate out as well.
Yes. The Privacy Commission has been keeping an eye on it. So far, of the 850 notifications, there was only one reported case of misidentification. And it appears shoppers are comfortable with the added security measure. Foodstuffs has released the results of a survey of 452 customers at locations where the facial recognition technology was rolled out. It found that 9 out of 10 either supported it or didn't have a problem with it.
The feedback from store team members and owners is very positive. They are noticing a decrease in retail crime in those trial stores.
And the security experts Foodstuffs is working with say the cost of living isn't to blame.
In resale in relation to organised crime, secondly in relation to feed addiction or in relation to addiction, and thirdly for notoriety on social media and not cost of living.
But criminologist Emi Rakete disagrees.
Until ordinary working class New Zealanders have a higher standard of living, till they have housing they can rely on, food they can afford, this is probably going to continue happening.
A surge in retail crime, she says, is a sign of desperate times. Zane Small, News Hub.
Yeah, well, there you go. To wrap that up from their side of things, Chewy, I guess, they say it's not. And I remember the conversation we had last time, the story was saying that people aren't stealing packs of nappies. Like they were saying, the cost of living basics are not the things being stolen. But then I guess you could also argue, well, if they're stealing to order, that's to get money for the cost of living.
Yeah.
So I guess it's chicken or egg.
It's stealing nappies is a relatively low value item that's bulky and hard to hide. Stealing a supermarket trolley full of packets of meat that would go for $10-20 a pop, would buy you many more packs of nappies.
Yeah.
Like this is why I've never bought that, like, oh, it's not a cost of living sort of thing. It's
right.
It's people wanting to live the good life.
Well, I actually remember the point you made last time, which you may have forgotten. And the point was maybe the supermarket are saying it's not a cost of living because they don't want to bring attention to how much profit they're making and how much they're charging for the basics. So maybe there is a vested interest for the supermarkets to go, oh, it's not cost of living. So, and you made that point last time to give you credit and just reminding us all of the point that you made, which I think is a really fair and quite intelligent point there, Joey. Now, I see that this conversation tied into also the police because crime's going up and police are disappearing. What does that mean? Here's News Hub Tonight. It's only a 2-minute story talking about what New South Wales is doing aggressively to try and, entice our police across to them.
It's not new recruits, but our most experienced senior constables.
With hundreds of vacancies for officers across New Zealand, it's bad timing for the government, already under pressure to pay for its new National Gang Unit.
Well, and remember, pay for the National Gang Unit and deliver 500 new police officers. And what I think what we expect, Chewy, is if there was, 9,000 police officers now, we expect at the end of that to be 9,500. Not if there's 9,000 now and 1,000 leave, there to be 8,500. Because that technically would be, 500 new police officers, but our expectation would be 500 more than what there was when they got to power. That would be the expectation.
Australia correspondent Emma Cropper reports.
Come a cropper.
When Sydney's top cop stepped up to the mic,
good morning, thanks for being here.
Karen Webb spoke directly to Kiwis.
If you are a police officer in another jurisdiction in Australia or New Zealand, at senior constable level, join the New South Wales Police Force.
That's a pretty direct call for action, isn't it? It's like no messing around there. Come and join us.
Jesus.
Come and be with us. We'll treat you right.
To lure over our best officers with more money.
We pay well and we're attractive.
And so far, the Police Association says Australia's recruitment drive is working.
Yeah, it's a real worry. We lost 20 officers alone last week.
It couldn't be worse timing for New Zealand. The government's new tough on crime stance is putting more pressure on police.
Of course.
And it hasn't revealed how it will pay and staff its brand new National Gang Unit.
We expect it will be a mix of reprioritisation and new investment, but we can't get ahead of budget announcements.
With 250 vacancies for police across the country, the Prime Minister admits New Zealand can't match Aussie dollars.
That's up for each individual police officer to make their decision. But I just say to you, we are wanting to build a country where police officers choose to stay here.
So this is this idea of we're just going to be the best little country in the world that everyone will want to live in, even if they get paid less. Now, if you have enough of a pull, you can do that. I'm sorry to go all sports ball on you, Chewy, but to be an All Black, you need to play rugby in New Zealand. So there are a lot of professional rugby players who choose not to go to the UK where they get paid bigger bucks, much bigger bucks, because the All Black jersey means that much. I don't know if living in New Zealand has the same kind of draw for most people versus a 50% higher paycheck and a cheaper housing system. Do you know what I mean? So there are things that you can go, you're not going to earn as much, but it's worth staying. I don't know if the Prime Minister saying, oh, you know, we just want to make this a better place for them to live is in that kind of feel. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly right. Like if the way you'd find out is if the jobs had the same pay. Yeah. And then are we still losing cops to Australia? Oh, it's more appealing. Or if it stops, it goes, oh, okay, people prefer the lifestyle here. But you can't pay your rent with lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can't get ahead with lifestyle. If these cops are being asked to do more for less, comparatively, you know, why would you stick around?
But
you can't sit there and go, oh, you're leaving New Zealand. How disloyal of you.
You're also forgetting.
You're being disloyal to them.
You're forgetting, Chewy, that Mark Mitchell said a few days ago that the reason they're putting downward pressure on rents is because police officers rent houses and that will help them out. So there's that. That's a cover all, isn't it? Doesn't that make everything else go away?
I want to know how many applications were lodged after that abortion of an interview. Because if I was a cop watching that, I'd be brushing up my CV and emailing it directly to Karen to go, oh, yep, fucking, I'm on.
Okay, we'll get to the end of this. Only 30 seconds.
Hasn't been enough. In the past 12 months, Australia has been aggressively targeting Kiwi cops using incentives like $20,000 cash bonuses. This time here in New South Wales.
That's a chunk of change. 20 grand. So basically, if you could get yourself across there for cheap, 20 grand is potentially a house deposit. They could potentially say, come to Australia and work and we'll give you a house deposit and pay you better. That's, you know, it could be in that vicinity. Imagine that.
They're after senior constables and they'll let them keep their rank if they move over.
When it becomes really easy and you know, you're not losing your rank, so you're keeping that, you know, the pay levels at the higher rate than having to start again in Australia, that makes it really attractive to a number of officers.
And it leaves New Zealand not only without police officers, but this time crucial police experience.
Yeah.
In Sydney, Macropa News Hub.
I wonder as well, actually, this is a side note. I'd be interested to hear from an Australian police officer. I wonder how an Australian police officer would feel about a Kiwi turning up on their doorstep and outranking them on day one. Another conversation though. But there you go. They're advocating hard. I saw someone in the chat saying something like Australians are brutal, and I kind of think that works for this. It's like they're brutally coming after our cops and our police officers and our nurses. And you know what? I get it. I'm not saying this is a national problem. This is a New Zealand problem. And you have to remember, Whānau, is that this government has said they're going to solve all the problems that Labour had under them. This is one of the problems. How are you going to solve it? And I'm reminded of an interview with the Prime Minister during, you know, probably 8 months out from the election. It was one of the breakfast shows. I think it might have been TVNZ, where he was talking about how important it is to keep, and I think it might have been nurses, how important it was to keep them, how important, are you going to pay them more? And he would not answer it. Because of that, of course, that's how you keep them.
It's like Australia starting up a black market economy, and it's the world's shittiest barter deal. We will give you X amount of 501s that have never lived in your country, and we will take 20 to 25 police for every one 501 that we send you. Is that a good deal?
Well, the scary thing is New South Wales is 1,500 police officers short. 1,500. And that's why they're actively pushing for, you know, the other states to come across and New Zealand. There is a lot of fat in 1,500, you know, How many could they, if they get more, say they do their first round and they still need another 1,300, are those offers going to go up? It's 30,000 cash now. Oh, you get another 500, is the offer going to go up? You know, so if they want to do it, they'll find a way.
My cousin, I mean, this would be probably 10, 15 years ago, left New Zealand to join the Victorian police.
Right.
And it was a similar sort of thing there. He was just like, well, I'm bumbling around in Christchurch. I want to see a bit more action. I want to upskill. There's more money on the table. I don't have family ties. I'm just going to go. Like if you're a new cop there and you don't have roots here in New Zealand, you're renting. You know, why would you stick around? That's the question. And Luxon seems to want to go, you want to stick around because we're the best little country in the world.
You know what I thought? If I had been in that press conference, you know what I wanted to ask? If we're the best little country in the world, Mr. Luxon, why the fuck did you leave for so long? Because you obviously didn't.
Such a good question. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Let me just tell you as well, because I've just done the numbers as I've looked at it. Minimum wage is about $24 an hour, something like that. Something around that figure. A day one police officer on their first day gets paid, if they work a 40-hour week, $27 an hour. $56,000, $27 an hour. That's their starting wage as a new recruit. So and look, I'm not talking down the minimum wage, but that's what it doesn't take much to compete with that for an Australian police force. $27 an hour. Ludicrous. I want to play one.
Mark Mitchell's not going to inspire people to stay. Put it that way.
Yeah, that's true actually, because that's a really interesting point, because people follow leaders. If you've got the right leader, you follow them through anything, and he is not. You're very, very right there.
Like the police or the military and that sort of thing, where leadership is so important.
Yeah.
Like even in other jobs, I think we'll all here have an experience of sticking around in a job that you should have bailed on ages ago because you have a good team and a good leader.
Yeah. Yeah. One other part, and I actually watched, I didn't spend an hour watching, I spent an hour watching and listening, because I had in my headphones on my phone, the press conference that Luxon did today about the pre-budget speech. Oh my God, watching, it's the conversation from last night where words are spoken and they sound good, but you know that below them there's a lot of danger coming. But this was the part of the press conference afterwards. He was talking about this issue around fully funding the police for the new gang unit. It's only 60 seconds. I want to play this part that I took out of it though.
Yesterday we had the national gang unit announced, but I'm wondering, can you fully commit to funding it, given there was no money attached to the announcement yesterday?
Well, again, what I'd say to you, we are committed to restoring law and order in this country. A big part of it is cracking down on gangs. Gang members want all the rights of being Kiwis. They're not prepared to take the responsibilities. They feel a lot of misery and suffering with playing for their fellow Kiwis. We're over that. We're giving the police the tools that they need.
Notice he hasn't answered the question yet. The question was a pretty slam dunk easy. Are you fully funding it? He hasn't answered the question yet.
It's the 500 more police officers in the next 2 years. We've obviously got our gang laws coming through that Parliament at the moment, and you saw the announcement from the police commissioner. So we'll be making sure we're cracking down on gangs, and that police have the resources they need to do exactly that job. Well, again, we'll make sure that police have the resources they need to get this
fully funded.
We're working in a different way, and I think
we're working in a different way. Yeah, the really crazy patronizing way. Is that what you're doing? How you don't answer questions, and when people ask you straight questions like, "Are you going to fully fund it?" You go, "We're all about crime and punishment. That's all what we're about," and you don't answer it. That's the way you're working in.
I appreciate it's taking people time to understand the way we're working, which is we are
because we're all stupid.
And how people organise resources to deliver those outcomes. That's what we want them to do.
So not a lot of Simon Bridges was hosting Christopher Luxon, and they had Simon Bridges at the end was asking Christopher Luxon questions, and one of the questions that Simon Bridges asked about, the version of austerity that we're going through. It's not like austerity to the max, but the version of it. One of the questions he asked, which I nearly threw up on, Simon Bridges asked was, why haven't you gone harder when it comes to cuts and stuff? It's like sitting at the business forum. I'm like, okay, we can see. Why haven't you gone harder? Thank you for missing that that election, Mr. Bridges, when COVID kicked in. We can see what we would have ended up with. When the question is why haven't you gone harder? I'm pretty much done with that topic, meaning all the stuff. Is there anything else you want to pick up to do with it, Chewy, before we move on to our fun half hour?
I just think it's absolutely laughable that Luxon can't answer a question like that. And it took a day.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah.
It's not a curly fucking, oh shit, they rumbled us. It's just a very straight reporter question. And he can't answer it.
Yeah. 100%. All right. Let's do Duncan Garner's come to Jesus moment. Now, it's not necessarily a come to Jesus moment, but it certainly is a change of attitude from Mr. Garner. And people change attitude. You've got to give them credit where they get it. Now, I want to play you this first part. This is from a few years ago, because before his come to Jesus moment, this was Duncan Garner and what he thought around politics. This is Duncan Garner's beliefs. So the election was Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Who would Garner have voted for?
I arrived in the office early this morning and told the team if I was American, I'd be voting Trump today. More on that in a sec. But I couldn't vote for Biden. I mean, why would you?
4 more years of Georgia, he... It's my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. You switched on me.
Who's your wife, mate? Anyway, 40 years in Washington, but he can't remember anything of it.
We choose truth over facts.
Biden is president. I mean, heck, he'd barely qualify to get a bus driver's license to take children to school and back each day. What do you? Seriously. America's two options are poor. It's buffoon versus the man with the fading faculties. I'm going to go with the buffoon. I'm not proud. I just can't vote for Biden. And so back to the moment in the office. There I was. As if going vegan hasn't isolated me enough, I openly backed Trump. Oh, Trump, that guy.
I look better than them.
It's like at this point in his life, he had totally bought into all the bullshit, as to who Biden was and who Trump was.
And then the fight back, it came. Glares, was I just saying it? Just to get a rise from the newsroom. Well, it wouldn't be for the first time. But then they tore strips off me. Biden is sharp, they said. The dementia stuff is made up by Trump, they said. He's not Sleepy Joe, he's just got a stutter. What?
As Trump's been spending weeks asleep in the courtroom.
Who's your wife again?
It's my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband.
So I think we've got the point. I don't need to play anymore. It goes on for another 60 seconds about why he would vote for Trump. And this used to be one of the criticisms I have of Today FM. Today FM had a trying to compete with Newstalk ZB, and their talkback section was a man who said he would have voted for Trump, an ACT party supporter who is now working on the platform, and someone who wanted to be a national MP. That was their talkback lineup as they were trying to compete with ZB, who had cornered the market on right-wing talk. Now, in saying all of that, we applaud our people when they have come to Jesus moments and they change their position. So let's have a listen to a little bit of the working group last night and have a listen to what was said by Duncan Garner. Of course, I forget this guy's name, Chewy. You know him, though. What's his name? This guy here? I always forget his name.
That's convicted fraudster Damien Grant.
That'd be him. Talking, of course, about food in schools is an abomination and it should never happen. So let's have a listen to old Dunks on this.
Abomination.
I think the Food for Schools program should have
bias for the first time in 25 years in this complete disastrous.
I apologise with that. This is going to do this thing again where it decides to jump all over the place. Goodness me. That's why I checked them down. 6 minutes 22 is where we started. And I said abomination there, Chewy. That was my word, not his. But, okay. It was fairly obvious. There we go, 6:21. All right, let's go again.
See more on this. I think the Food for Schools program should have been scrapped. The idea that you as a parent are unable to scrape together the $2 or $3 it would require to put a sandwich in the kid's lunchbox is paternalistic nonsense. It is not the state's responsibility to feed your children. It is your responsibility to feed your children. Tell that to all the poor people. Tell that.
What
to
about
the,
old people?
No.
Is it the state's responsibility to house and to give a pension to old people?
No.
I know.
What about those starved
disability people? What about all those disabled people who can't get a job because they're missing limbs?
We are talking about parents' responsibility.
Yeah, don't change the topic and make a logical conclusion somewhere else, because that puts holes in my libertarian stance. So please just stick with lunches.
Feed their children, and the state is turning
Slippery
in.
slope.
The state is turning in. That's terribly racist. The state is turning in and saying that we don't believe as a state that you as a parent have the ability to get the $2 or $3 it requires to put a sandwich in your.
But see, that's an act party narrative. It's not. No, it is not. It is not an act. It is not $2 to $3. It's more than that.
It is not an act party narrative because I am criticising the act party for making the assumption that parents are so inept and incompetent that they cannot provide lunch for the children. I mean, do we have a situation? So at the moment, we have a cradle-to-grave welfare state. If you don't have a job, the government is going to give you money. And part of the reason that the government gives you money is to, at a minimum, feed your kids. And if you can't even do that, then that's, at some point, you've got to go down to the Salvation Army. It's not the job of the government.
I used to hold this view. I used to hold this view I used to hold the same view as you until.
Show me where the state hurt you.
Until I went around the schools and I saw the complete inequity and this guy's fancy lunch here and no one's lunch over here. So it was a standard practice. This is about feeding kids so they can learn. It's not their fault. Just deal with it.
There you go. So there's a slight change in the function of Duncan Garner. He used to believe the libertarian way, and now he thinks that we should just feed the children. You can give me 30 seconds now while I queue up the next one to make sure it doesn't stop.
Okay. So first of all, brace yourself. I'm going to give twice convicted fraudster Damien Grant a little bit of credit here for trying to hold his position that the state shouldn't help anybody.
Yeah, consistent.
He didn't want to continue down that path because the natural end of that path is all libertarians are fucking monsters that will step over corpses in the street. It's a horrible worldview, and fuck him for having it.
Do you know what I thought about when I was watching this, about the libertarian things? I'd like to try and find a poor libertarian, because what he comes across as is people with choices, and people with choices are people of means. And I would struggle to think there'd be many beneficiaries or many low wage earners and stuff that would be libertarians, because libertarian is like the ultimate privilege, because to make choices and to look after yourself, like not to need a social welfare state, to look after yourself to whatever level you deem to be important, requires money. So that's my question. How many poor people are libertarians?
The thing about libertarians is they always think they're going to be the Lord and never the serf.
Yeah.
As much as they might point fun at communism and go, oh, it's never worked, it only works on paper. That's the same fucking thing for libertarianism. You are talking about Mad Max. Who has the most guns and the highest walls gets to live. You know, it's a foolish fallacy.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is, why is it the state's responsibility to feed children in schools? It's because children are citizens, and if they're fed well, they learn. And then we have an educated population for the benefit of someone like Damien Grant, to live in a society with educated people. That's the benefit.
Yeah. Now, I know I played that clip with Duncan talking about voting for Trump. We don't know exactly where his politics are in New Zealand, but you would expect if someone was more left-wing minded, they would never be able to say that statement. If you're going to pick the buffoon over the ironically, of course, Biden's had one of the most successful presidency when it comes to achievements of recent times after all of that. So I don't know where he would sit today, politically speaking. But again, to give him some credit, Bomber asked a question, something like, what's the next crazy thing to come from this government? And he echoed some things that perhaps you've been saying, Chewy, and I've been saying. Let's have a listen.
You might as well give it to Brian Tamaki. Duncan, what are we going to see next from this crazy government?
I think that this is a government that has looked very shallowly at the past national governments and pinched all their ideas because they've got no ideas of their own. I think they will go back to 1999 with Jenny Shipley and the Charter of Social Obligations.
Oh,
don't because she
remind me. Sorry,
so it was a charter basically, and I think it had Roger Sowry and Ginny should be walking down the beach at Panapotomi with a dog and jumping around. And it was about, if you what your country's doing for you, we want something back in return. So to get a benefit, you must do this, and this. Get your kids off to school and at the right time, not be late. So it was very school mom.
Yeah.
And I reckon in this government we have a bit of that.
And they won't have an idea of their own, so they'll go back. What can we dial up from 99? Shipley's work.
Matthew?
There you go. So looking backwards, I think he's on the money with that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what we're going to see for the next 2.5 years.
Go further back. Go further back. Let's get Ruth Richardson back in the house.
Yep.
That's
all right.
That's what this is. And that, like, the 90s in New Zealand was a fucking monstrous, mean time that chewed families up. Oh,
yeah. I still remember. I mean, I was only a young fella at the time, but I still remember the stories about cash registers at emergency departments. That's the example that always seems to be used.
Look, it wasn't all bad. Lots of people made a lot of money.
Yeah,
they're all donors to National and Act now because they've got good memories.
Yeah. All right. And this last part is just, I'm just going to throw back because, they're talking about first home buyers. They're talking about the cost of living. They're talking about how expensive it is to buy a house. And once again, I'm just giving Duncan some credit, the way he's grown and the way he's moved away from being a potential Trump voter. He actually does quite a good job of bringing it full circle about cost of living back to school lunches.
And those with a mortgage are now spending 49% of their income just serving that mortgage.
It's outrageous.
While the 4 main Australian banks reap billion-dollar profits.
Yes.
Sorry, where did the 49% come from? Sorry, I hadn't heard that figure.
Baseball.
Sounds great.
It's the New Zealand stats.
So the
49% of mortgage holders.
So
are spending.
in my father's day, and in our parents' day, it was 25% and no more. My father used to say to me, he's in finance, he used to say to me, no more than 25% of your income on the rent or the mortgage. So it's now double that. And you want to take away food in schools? You miserable bugger.
Within a generation.
What a misery. You're walking misery on legs.
So, I mean, even though I do feel a bit uncomfortable because they're all jovial and joking about it, the point he's making is why can't some people afford to pay for food for their kids to have school lunches? Because they're paying so much in rent and mortgages, which I'm like, has he come to Jesus? Is he now comrade as opposed to Trump voter? I don't know, but some interesting thoughts coming out of his mouth, and credit where credit's due.
Yeah, look, it's such a position. Like we had it here. I acknowledged it on the show when it popped up in the chat that it's parents' responsibility. Rah, rah, rah. You'll see it in the comment sections. You'll see it vomiting out of twice convicted fraudster Damien Grant's mouth there as well. That it's the parents' responsibility to feed their kids. Yeah, cool. What if they can't?
Yeah.
Do they just starve? Is that what we do? We moan and we gnash our teeth and we wring our hands when a child dies in a domestic violence type thing. But it's just as mean to just starve them through school.
Yeah.
And that classic, like I've been in that position of opening up your lunchbox and seeing what your mates have got and that you don't. That's fucking shit. The worst fucking feeling. Oh, I'm poor. That's what I've just learned today in the playground.
Yeah.
It's shit. If we can spare kids that, we fucking should. And Damien Grant can go and live on Libertarian Island where they'll be eating each other in months. Or they can move to that town. I saw this mentioned in the chat. I absolutely love this story. If you guys haven't read about it, there is a community in America that was a fully libertarian town. They were committed to the ideals of libertarianism. The whole town, and I kid you not, was overrun by bears within a couple of months because nobody would work together. It's amazing. The other thing I want to acknowledge here is Duncan Garner talking about Biden. Look, if I was in the States, I don't like Biden. I don't like Trump. They're both two very bad options. But in that choice, you hold your nose and you vote for Biden. Like, I don't see why that's a hard choice to make. And then you make sure that the Democratic Party has a better option next time round.
But that's the problem. The problem. And like, I know we've had this conversation before and we don't need to relitigate it right now, but until they burn it down, they won't change. Because if the Democrats don't have to change because people keep holding their nose and voting for them, then they'll never get changed. I'm not saying therefore you vote for Trump, but I think that's not as easy a
binary choice though, right?
Yeah.
I can't vote for Biden because he's old and doddery.
Yeah.
So I'm going to vote for Trump as a beacon of vigor and youthfulness and integrity. Get fucked.
In the chat, where has it gone? I did start. Here we go. Duncan had a cup of reality. I wonder, actually, because he's gone through, and he laughed about it on that show again, he's gone through a pretty serious breakup and divorce, and that'll involve money and that kind of stuff as well. I wonder if he has had some, I don't know this, so it's probably not my place to say, but I wonder if he has had some personal experiences in the last couple of years that have helped to shape where he is right now. Let's get some more chats out there, eh? Let's go to Peter. Watching the Kiwi documentary, there was some excellent policing there, centered on liaising with the marchers. Yeah, no, it's very, very true. It's a very good point. Luke says fair pay contracts, and Aussie is quite unionised. You said that. Thank you for that. Mr. Arvids for a super chat. Appreciate the super chat. Labour contributes to the migration by not doing enough. National just exasperates it. We need Strike Force Grosser from Peter. Strike Force Grosser. Because I care, says my daughter is 22, 5'2", and a supervisor at a supermarket, and now wearing a camera. I read that the other day. There are some trials of body cams being put out there. Major loss at the moment is trolleys full of meat. There you go, trolleys full of meat. That's an expensive thing these days. And then because I care, it goes on to say 3 to 4 trolleys a day. Wow. If that's happening out of a supermarket, that would be a lot of money. Mark Super Chat, thank you for the Super Chat, says, was the manager of a retail store in Wellington, got poked with a needle approaching a shoplifter leaving the store. I am no longer working retail. Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. If it's a needle as in a hypodermic needle, then it's like, gosh, what could that have on it? That's terrifying. Reese says, for a laugh, look up the picture of Christopher Luxon and Peter Dutton, opposition leader in Australia, together on the Mr. Potato Head theme. You're going to find that? Because I'll keep reading. Okay, and Mosgol, crime is fed by need, which is driven by greed. Greedy fat cats at the top, screwing the wee fellas creates the need. Yep, I hear you. And there's one more super chat. Thanks, guys, for the super chats. That's great. Appreciate it. From Ella. Ella says, LOL, Jesus fed 5,000. These butts don't want to feed kids. Want kids fed, I should say. Yeah, nice one. And you know what? From my old Catholic upbringing, I'll tell you a little stat about that. When they talk about the number of people in biblical times, they're only talking about the men. So when it says fed the 5,000, that would be 5,000 men. It doesn't include the kids or the women, or, I mean, if you're into the story, I'm saying, but that's those ancient scripts. Anytime they talk about people, they are talking about men. So
everybody knows that women aren't people.
They don't eat. They don't eat food. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
I had one other little thing to show. I might have actually closed it down. I know I will show it to you. This is a bit of fun, actually. It's not a fun topic, but when they talk about chickens coming home to roost, here's a little story. I'm not going to play any video, just read it to you. Confusion surrounds a coalition COVID-19 vaccine mandate pledge. New Zealand First still working through the details. The coalition is still trying to work out how it will meet its pledge to end all COVID-19 vaccine mandates, given the government mandates were scrapped more than 1.5 years ago. New Zealand First secured a commitment during negotiations to form a government last year, and leader Winston Peters hailed the policy win during his State of the Nation speech in March. That's despite Labour having already axed all government vaccine mandates in September 2022. I think it's as far as we need to go. I told you it was a little light-hearted one, so they're dumb. I know. So they're actually going to wait. Okay. Outcomes, people, wasting money, people. You're going to waste time trying to figure out how you're going to end something that's already ended. How many public servant man hours is going to go into that we're paying for? A bunch of tosspots. Oh my goodness.
Look at these smackheads.
Slapheads, eh? Oh yeah, good me. Good gracious. Is Luxon really short? Or was old mate quite tall?
No, I think Luxon's quite short. Remember, I saw him at the Dunedin airport once.
Were you towering over him?
No, but it's definitely taller than him. Is Dutton the one that would like go to a farm and just eat a whole onion? Am I thinking of the right one, or is that another Aussie weirdo politician?
There's a thing called a Dutton onion.
A Dutton onion? Oh, it probably is. Am I right in this chat?
I haven't heard this.
He goes to a farm, someone gives him a piece of produce and he just eats it.
and he did an onion.
Yeah. Yeah, like it just, oh, no, it was Tony Abbott. See, there's too many weirdo Australian politicians doing absolutely unhinged weird stuff for me to keep them straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's saying Peter Dutton, ate an onion like an apple. Just,
I wonder if he'd been hypnotized. Yeah, that's where the hypnotist's trying to trick. Hypnotize you, make it eat an apple. I tell you, there's something. Look, this is tangent time. There's something that I
that's
really.
a really good point.
Was that
Dutton is the pool that started the whole 501 issue. So if they're all being matey potato there, how much pushback do you think Luxon's going to do on the 501 issue?
This is a completely off the charts tangent now. Because you're talking about eating onions, that's the tangent. There's a thing called a miracle berry. You hear about this?
No.
So if you eat a miracle berry or you suck on a miracle berry, what happens with anything you eat next? It tastes sweet.
Oh, yes, I have heard of this. Yes.
So that's the miracle berry. I'll leave the sound down in case this is predicted. And they eat the miracle berry, and then they eat like sour stuff, and it tastes really sweet.
I brace for it to be sour, but it's sweet. I mean, really sweet. Almost like a lemonade that has way too much sugar.
Oh, there you go. That's how I'd eat an onion. I want to try those one day. I think you can buy them in New Zealand. Get them online. Miracle berries. Anyway, sorry, that was my little. See, I do little short tangents because I'm polite, Chewy, not big frickin' 13-minute ones.
Well, we can't all be as skillful as I. Look what I found.
Okay, you actually got it. Abbott.
Very good.
Certainly brought a tear to my eye.
Wow, hang on. Got it in time. Did I get it in time? I think I did. Put a tear to my eye.
I believe you did.
Okay.
But yeah. Like,
alrighty, mighty.
If a politician did that, would you? Oh, I'm thinking of voting for this guy. Unhinges his jaw, completely swallows a whole onion. Wouldn't you just go, oh, no?
Yeah. Especially if you didn't react to it. It's got no senses whatsoever. Mr. Arvids wants to know why is our PM talking to the foreign opposition. They all talk to everyone, don't they? Any kind of politician that's out there. All right, team, we're done. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you all being there. Oh, you know what? Let's just share the news about the numbers. Should we do that?
Oh, you love
and we haven't done the song. We haven't done the song.
Oh, we almost walked away without the song.
Gosh. So the reason I haven't done this is, you can go now if you're not Fano. The reason I haven't done a new billboard yet for the patrons, and thank you very much for joining us, is I'm designing a film credit to play at the end of the show. And I said last night, are we big enough yet for someone to make us a song? Just make it. And I got a message from Gold in the Patreon chat. And Gold, and I haven't asked if I could use it, I'm sure it'll be fine. He basically said he's been messing around with AI. So I don't know how much of this is Gold's work and how much has just been written in, and then make a song like this. But tell me what you think, Chewy.
And sure, pick up the news.
Oh, this is epic.
Style, keeping it loose. New Zealand, where the politics play. They bring the truth every single day. Talking about the mess all over the land. They shine a light with a mic in their hand.
Oh,
no time for cheese, just facts straight up. Plan chew, never backing up. From the cave to bluff, no place too far. They expose the truth and raise the bar. Politicians tremble at their mighty voice.
Wait for the musical finish.
Pat and shoe, they'll make the right choice.
That is excellent.
Oh, that's next song. Who that's by. So there you go, Chew. Something has been made. I don't know how long it took or what it was about, but just sent through. And I'm like, I started to try and make the new version of the billboard, and I thought maybe I'll put that over it, and that can be the outgoing song every single night and see how it goes. So to let people know, this is Whānau meeting time, super quick. Because I was doing this, I was having a look around today at the numbers, just so you guys know, because you guys who watch us are the reason we get to do this, and we like to share this stuff with you. I had a look at the numbers of because our audio podcast has always been the smallest part of the show, right? The least reach. We're getting 15,000 listens a month at the moment to the audio podcast. So I had to look back. I was interested over the last 3 months to see if it had picked up or what it was. And it was 45,000 listens over 3 months, over 90 days. On YouTube in the same time, 3 months, 583,000 views. Twitter, this is video views on Twitter, over the same 3 months, 382,000 views. And TikTok, which is only 60 days, you can't go back 90, 871,000 views of video content. So that means in the past, mostly 3 months, there'll be more you probably add another 400,000 to it if it's TikTok, but whatever. We've basically had 2 million views or listens in 3 months. And the reason I looked at this is I know I've talked about this before. I'm incredibly busy and I find it hard to do anything else other than what I'm doing right now, but I'm trying to find myself some time so I can go out and find some sponsorship or find some advertising. And I know I've said this before, right? I'm not looking for anyone to do anything, right? Just chill out. But Cheerio went, every single one of those 2 million views and listens could be an advert. 2 million in 3 months. So, and it's thanks to you guys, and it's thanks to you guys sharing our stuff around. I'm sharing a message with a business group on Sunday afternoon, and they wanted me to come along and talk about community because of you. People who know this product may know what's in the chat. So I'm going to deliver a kind of a seminar, more of a casual conversation to a business group on Sunday afternoon about building community. And it's because of this show and what you guys in the chat right now are doing. The same. I said to Chewy last night, Chewy, when I got here, I went, they're here every fucking night. Those people every night. And that's what we're doing. So we'll keep you up to date with what's going on. I like to let you know the numbers. People say this all the time. Like someone said to me the other day, Chewy, on one of the things, oh, look at those two bald cucks. I don't feel the need to take my hat off, but I don't wear a hat because I'm bald. I wear a hat because I'm a 9-year-old boy and I like wearing caps. And people are always like, no one sees you and no one. So, this is not for them. They won't see this, but for you, because of you guys, been 2 million views over the past 3 months.
Yeah, that's
pretty
crazy.
Cool. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy for such a niche little, like our ridiculous little country and our ridiculous politicians and that me just getting angry. We've tapped into something. I think this might be the next show feat on the internet sort of thing. We've unlocked something.
I also thought if we put this up on Apple and start selling it for 99 cents.
Big hairy style.
Big hairy style.
We got the podcast to number 1. Could we get the song to number 1 of the charts? Oh, there you go. Now you're partying too.
Every single day.
All right, guys. Been lovely to be with you. Hopefully you enjoyed the little tangent at the end. It's a great one to finish on. JK, well done. There you go, Chewy. Should we read that one out for people who are listening? For people who are on the audio podcast.
I hear Australia is looking for podcasters. Yeah. So there's a badger gun and relocation.
Very good. No, this is when you watch that Seinfeld episode where what was his name? Costello, his little brown friend. I can't remember his first name. His mate. And he goes, when you make a joke and it's the best laugh, you always leave the room then. You leave the room, you exit the conversation on the biggest laugh. So that was a great one from JK. So we're done. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hero News. Be safe, be well. Come back tomorrow night, bring a friend. And thanks for being with us. Have a good one. Hooroo.
No nice.